Hello and welcome to the Morning Skate Podcast. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell, here to cover the Thursday, March 28th NHL Daily Fantasy Slate. DJ, how you doing on this fine Wednesday evening as we come to you live from our studios?
Pretty good, I guess. Just gonna be sweating out the best puck tournament. I don't know. I was up to third. I think I was actually up to second at one point, and then I fizzled back down to eighth. It's gonna be a sweat to the finish. Yeah, that's gonna be most of what I'm worried about for this week, and we'll see who wins 25K. So you have a couple teams up near the top as well. Are you sweating it already, or is that? I mean, obviously, is that just stupid?
It's obviously stupid. I've looked at the
Mhm.
teams I have. I have two teams. It's not that hard to keep track of. So, yeah, I don't feel great. My goaltending's pretty shitty, but we'll see. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens. And yeah, I mean, when the absolute chalk monster Philip Forsberg goes bananas, it's really hard to gain separation. So, like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Vegas really let us down on Tuesday by,
Not
they could
me.
have kept things fun if they just shut him out.
I have 100% Forsberg, so I need chalk donkeys. I mean,
Well,
I am the chalk donkey, so
I have 100% Forsberg too. Like both my lineups
yeah,
have Forsberg, but like,
he's
I
yeah,
mean, what are
monster
you
though. No, I
winning? What are you winning if he
no,
takes up one of your slots? But in any
no,
case,
yeah, I agree. I agree.
we can confirm DJ DraftKings is trying to kill us. A
Yep.
14 gamer here. I did want to cover sort of what we touched on last show where you weren't on. But I mentioned I mentioned the MSP Madness, which I'll get to in a second. I did want to talk about the Fantasy Aquarel Championship, but obviously time considerations. Considering that and the fact that I'm working on a newsletter piece, it's moods.beehive.com. It's on my Twitter, whatever. If you don't subscribe to it yet, please do. Because I'm recapping it there, I really don't want to spend too much time talking about it because I'm going into great depth on some of the things that I thought about the event, and obviously going into actually the specifics of like what you do there. Because I feel like people it's not on the landing page like what actually goes on at the event, and like how they treat you, and what the sort of like calendars like, those sorts of things. So like I'm just sort of putting that into the newsletter, and I hope that people find that interesting, and in addition to sort of my recap of the slate itself. But I did just want to say on this podcast, thank you to everyone who reached out, via Discord or on Twitter, to basically say good luck. It was a ton of fun. And yeah, you can check out my newsletter for sort of the full details of the weekend, and some of my more deeper thoughts on the live event. But let's see, DJ,
Okay. Yeah.
you were traveling. How was your weekend? Are you recovered, fully ready to go for this Thursday slate?
I gotta be honest, like, yes, I actually do feel like I went to the gym today. I felt good. And again, like, I mean, obviously I drank 1,000 beers. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I was a good boy, but like I never felt hungover. I felt really good, just energized, like going, traveled back, of course, tired, landed Buffalo at 11 p.m. Get right to bed. And like for 2 days, I probably slept. I mean, like I was really only awake on Monday for maybe like 6 hours tops. Like I slept for 12 and then I woke up and then I took like a 4 hour, like 4 hours worth of naps. Like I really just kicks my ass now. And like, of course, like if I was totally sober the whole time or whatever, and it was a bachelor party, so we're always on the move doing stuff. I guess all of this to say is number one, amazing time. Can't express enough how grateful I am for the experience. And number two, very unnecessary to have your bachelor party in Cancun. And number three, definitely go to Cancun. Like it was sick though. It was sick. I just think next time I just want to be on a resort, enjoying, just kind of hanging out, like staying in one location because we were all over the place, fishing trip, all this stuff. I'll put a couple pictures in the Discord if anyone has any interest. But yeah, we can get right to the slate if you're ready.
Yeah. We
We
do
we, we
have
did
14.
we caught a fish. I named it Moods. Don't worry.
Oh gosh, thank you. Desperately needed to find some of my
It was
brethren.
It was a wahoo, in case anyone's a fisher out there. I mean, I didn't really get The Bachelor, were like they hooked it, and The Bachelor, obviously, my cousin got down there and reeled it in. And I was just like, moods, 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 moods. And everyone laughed. They knew exactly what I was talking about.
Oh yeah, Rasmus Dahlin came out of the woodwork. That's a fish.
That's a
Um,
fish.
all right. Yeah. So what I do want to do real quick is get back to the MSP madness. I vastly oversold the level of interest. So thank you to everyone who did. One, provide feedback, and two, that actually joined. So going forward, probably next year, I'll lower it to $5 or $10, kind of like we used to do in the past. But for now, I do have 12 people signed up, me and DJ included, to compete in a head-to-head type bracket. Obviously, with 12, we got to be a little bit creative. Bracket to sort of mirror the March Madness that is ongoing. So the basic rules, obviously, $20 to enter. And then there will be 2 rounds of head-to-head play that I'll pull seeding for in just a moment. Where basically we'll have 12 teams. We'll have 6 winners on day 1, and then we will have sort of a double elimination bracket from there. So basically what that means is, if I'm on the YouTube, you can sort of see my you can see the Excel that I'm working with in just a moment, because that's random.org. You can see that basically on day 1, we have a very basic 6 matchups, head-to-heads. The winners go to the 1-0 head-to-heads, and the losers go to the 0-1 head-to-heads. Very easy. So from there, on day 2, these 3 losers of the 0-1 head-to-heads are eliminated. There will be $0 paid, of course. And then on day 3, we will put the surviving 9 players into 3 groups. So in group 1 are the 2-0 teams. So if you won day 1 and you win on day 2, you go to group 1. And the reason for that will be made clear in just a moment. So that's a 3-man group. There is a 3-man group of group 2, which is the 1-0 game losers. So basically, you win on day 1, you lose on day 2, you go to group number 2. Group number 3, you go win or you lose on day 1, you win on day 2, you're 1-1, you go to group 3. The reason these groups are special is because group 1 will need to advance 2 players to the semis. Because you're 2-0, that's technically not double elimination. So for the 3rd place finisher in group 1, they will get $20. They will not advance through to the semifinals, the final 4, so to speak, but they will be at least paid something for their contribution. And then the winner of group 2 and the winner of group 3, the 3-man head-to-head on day 3, will advance to the semis. And so then obviously from there, it's a very easy semi 1, semi 2 on day 4, and then the MSP final on day 5. The prizes: the winner gets 120, the runner-up gets 60, and then the semi-loser number 1, the semi-loser number 2, and the group 1 3rd place finisher all get their $20 back. Thank you for playing. So that's basically the base setup. Obviously, there's only freaking 10 others of you that are listening to this is relevant for. So just want to quickly show on video, pulling the seeds randomly, and then I will sort of orchestrate the bracket and provide that for play starting on Thursday. So if you're listening to this and you signed up, please do make sure you join the special contest that I will send you later this evening. All right, so quickly go to random.org. Here's the 12 teams. You can see the Google sheet if you want to know, who these players are in Discord or whatever. But let's just do the seeding. And so here are the 12 seeds. I am the 10 seed. DJ's the 11 seed. We almost get to meet up in the first round. And so I will take care of that in a moment. All right, DJ, tell us what the 14 games are that we have on the docket on Thursday.
Why don't we just do them, honestly? I'll read off the stuff as we go through. We'll save a little time here. Just do the read, and then every game I'll give the lines when we start it. Yeah.
All right. I do. So yes, this podcast is sponsored by DraftKings, more specifically the DraftKings Sportsbook. We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get 200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. New customers bet just $5 on the NHL and get 200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. All right, there we go. My Tuesday betting. I know DJ, you post some stuff. I had 2 bets on Tuesday. One was Montreal puck line. I guess I should have bet the money line because I'm a little coward boy. And Miro Heiskanen shots, which he hit twice, but wound up not hitting because they took both shots away. You know, he had 3 multiple times, and it was taken away. So, yeah, that was tilting, but whatever. On we go. So that's the sportsbook for you. Now let's talk about the fantasy side.
Yep. Game 1, Islanders at the Panthers. It's a minus 198 for the home Panthers. Feels like we're getting to must win territory for the Islanders. It's a 6 over under minus 115 on that over. But on the other hand, you could say it's a must win for the Islanders, but the Panthers clearly are going for that top spot. They just lost more ground on it. So it's an interesting matchup. Pricing seems pretty good here, honestly, in my opinion, but it's just, again, it's a 6 over under. I'm not sure if it's going to project to be I could easily be talked out of this one, I guess, or talked into it. Do you have any initial thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm generally out on games involving the Islanders, I think. After they sort of cooled off, I don't know, their prices really haven't come back down to earth. They still are playing a decent brand of defensive hockey. And yeah, I don't know. There's really nothing on Florida that makes me think, oh, wow, like this is the team I really want to play. Now that they got Barkov back, that sort of relegates Reinhart to like this weird third line with Luostarinen and Lundell. Like it's cheap for sure. And I certainly wish I'd played it on Sunday. But, it's just not getting enough minutes with Barkov in the fold, in my opinion, at least on a, average projection basis. And I think that Reinhart Barkov could be very well reunited at any time. So there's like no real sense in stacking here. Kachuk for Hagee is maybe the only place I would go, but even that feels a bit expensive for their recent play. You see no one on Florida even makes the expected fantasy point list, which is sort of actually Reinhart down here, but that's just reflective of their play of late, which has been rather uninspiring. So yeah, I don't know. Any does that make you bristle at all, or are you just kind of like, yeah, I get it, let's move on?
Yeah, I think I get it. Let's move on. And the Islanders have broken up the kind of the 3-headed monster, we'll call it. Yeah. I'm not interested in stacking either. Palmieri 5K. Yeah. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I'll say is I always kind of note these spots where basically the defensive team is allowing a lot of dangerous chances, but not a lot of quantity. That does, just from a general heuristic standpoint, that does strike me as a stack rather than one-off, because the volume's probably not going to be there to support like a ton of, bonuses or whatever, for like, Noah Dobson or whatever, Brock Nelson. But if you want to stack a line, they're obviously Florida, so they're probably going to just rebound from this easily. But if this is indicative of a larger slide and you believe that, then stack the Islanders rather than, take one-offs. That's sort of one of the more astounding things that you'll see. Just usually teams tend to allow few chances and allow few expected goals, but that's just not what's happening here. Where Florida's giving up a ton of dangerous looks and not a ton of volume. So let's keep things moving into Philly and Montreal. I think this game's really interesting because Montreal has been playing very well as of late. I mean, we've I was noting it before they sort of won these last two games, just based on their underlyings being surprisingly good. Now we're looking at a 7,500 Sam Montembeau, who I honestly think on a 14 game slate could be 25% owned, which is crazy. I mean, that feels wild to even think, but like, it does make me think that there could be some leverage here by either stacking Philly. It just is a game that you need to discuss because I do think there'll be ownership here given prices. Um, Despite it being a relatively low, like, quality game on paper. So, what are your thoughts on this one here?
I mean, yeah, I think the problem is that like while you know what it is that like I feel like both these teams have a little bit of disrespect around them, and every time they play, I'm like, I respect these teams, but I respect both of them. That Flyers team, I mean, boy, the goaltending has been a nightmare. Like they should have probably won that Rangers game. They end up losing 6-5. I think it's definitely through them, if anything, but I don't know. Do I really want to stack against this Montreal team? I can't believe I'm saying that. But no, because I think I'm also potentially stacking into a bit of ownership because the Flyers are cheap. And I do think people are more, I guess, likely to take a look at a guy like Cam York and think, wow, this guy's double bonus upside. This guy's all super involved. He's 4,500. Wait, it's super easy to stack exactly who you want with them. Like it makes more sense that I feel like I'd rather just avoid, but a potential slightly chalky spot against a team I don't like to play against. So it's Flyers or nothing. And I think I'm just going to pass.
Yeah, the Flyer side is rather interesting. Montevo's been playing some pretty exceptional hockey. I'm very interested to see where ownership comes in here because projections have been picking up on uh, Cam York in particular, and he remains 4,500. Like this dude is just a walking puck magnet. Over the last 10, he has 32 block shots. I mean, he's been averaging 3 blocks a shot for well over 2 months now. And he's playing 27 minutes a night, manning the top power play. If it looks like Montembeau is actually going to be pretty popular, which, by the way, do you have the money line on this? I wasn't listening if you read it.
The money line is plus 130 for the home Canadians, minus 155 is a 6 over
Okay.
under, basically a coin flip. So not crazy
Okay.
high.
So yeah, so I was thinking Montreal would be closer to either a slight favorite or a pick 'em. So maybe I'm wrong, and 7,500 Montebo's not that owned. Um, so yeah, in any case though, I guess if ownership's not going to be in Montreal though, I mean this top line has been playing some pretty excellent hockey. Caulfield, Slavkovsky, Suzuki all feel too cheap for the matchup. So I will be dialed into what ownership sort of is telling us here because I guess I'm not buying it. If it's going to be just low, like I think this game does have a lot of interesting pieces because these teams are so top heavy and those top end pieces are so inexpensive. I mean, across the board, you're looking at very cheap Tippett, Konechny, Caulfield, even Suzuki, Morgan Frost is like de facto number one centers. And then Matheson and Cam York is number one D. Like, they all just make sense. They all can fit into pretty much any lineup. So, yeah, I do like this game. I'll probably flag plant this game toward the end of the show. But yeah, we'll certainly be tracking ownership throughout the day.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's
All right,
fair. Again,
Chicago,
I
Ottawa.
think, yeah. Yeah. I think I feel similar as you as well, but like, I think I'm more concerned about the ownership at this point. Yeah, Chicago at Ottawa. Ottawa already have 3-0 on Buffalo as we're recording, which is why I am texting a little bit because, boy, that's funny. Ottawa minus a 205 right now, could go up. Who knows? It's a 6.5 plus 105. So pretty high team total implied for Ottawa. Again, likely coming off a big win, but I'll say that now. And I would have said that yesterday about Vegas and see what happens. So we'll see how that game ends up turning out. Ottawa at home. Bedard's coming to town. It's 6.5. God, I mean, I don't really see too many scenarios where I go to a back-to-back Ottawa team against a really dog water Chicago team where, I mean, Bedard is doing well, but like he's not paying off that price tag. I mean, they're at least getting close to paying it off, but I don't honestly love the matchup. I think I'm gonna end up fading this one as well. I like the Flyers more. You know what I mean? Like worried about ownership, but so far, What are your thoughts?
Connor Bedard, go Burr. I mean, what? I mean, his play has been astonishing as of late, and you know, there is a very clear delineation between when he plays good teams and when he plays bad teams. But you know, Ottawa is certainly one of those bad teams, and there's a reason that he's leading the slate in expected fantasy points. I mean, over guys like Nathan McKinnon. Like this is, I think, a very clear buy spot. It's on the road, but it is against a back-to-back Ottawa team. I'm interested to see if Ryan Donato sticks on that top line because he, I believe, put up a complete 0 last game. And you know they won, so that would tend to stick. And clearly, Ryan Donato is a very reliable DFS asset, and he's going to check in at 3,200 on this slate alongside a 7,200 Bedard, who is simply put one of the top 10 fantasy producers in the league, in my opinion, at this juncture. Like, there's just no way to convince me that this dude who shoots all the time is an absolute puck magnet. Like, and you know, yes, he has no help, but that's priced in. The matchup, I just don't think it's priced in enough. So I'm highly interested in Bedard here. I think he's 1,000 too cheap, and the matchup does not scare me whatsoever. And you know, I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you agree with me there that Ottawa's like not this scary matchup, especially on a back-to-back.
4-0 Ottawa now.
You know what's really funny? You know what's really, really funny is that I had Kachuk, Batherson, Chikrin, and then changed it to Stützle, Kachuk, because I'm like, well, is Batherson, Chikrin really going to hit again? I don't know. Yeah, so that is minorly tilting. But yeah, Buffalo stinks out loud. What do you know?
Got to get new
What are you
jerseys for the
setting up?
background. Throwing my jerseys away.
Okay.
Where's
good.
my torch? We got to get this going viral, baby. Yeah, no, I agree with the Bedard stuff. I just don't think I'm going to go there. I truly do not respect the Chicago team at all. And I know it's all Bedard. Obviously, I'm not looking anywhere else. And I just at the end of the day, like, I'm fine with touting it a little bit, saying sure it's fine, but it just feels like a giant loser mentality to me. I think you could one off Bedard, but stacking the Chicago team just feels like an absolute fool's errand at this point. And I get that there's cheap enough pieces. I get what everything's saying, but I just honestly, I don't think I'm going to end up doing it. I don't think it's a bad play, but I guess there's just so many spots. There's 14 games. I like so many spots more than spending my cap on Bedard. So I'm down to move on if you are.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you're right. Like, outside of Bedard, there's not a ton to look at, but I do feel somewhat obligated to mention that this Landon Slaggert dude is playing alongside Jason Dickinson, who I guess is the best player in the world or something.
Yeah.
So
Untradeable.
he came out. Yeah. Well, he hasn't done much yet, but like 2,500. I don't know. If you need a punt, like he's.
You saw, like, he really should have had a goal, right? Like, I mean, did you see, like, the goalie dove out and then he like got it and shot it, and I think it was Rasmus Anderson just slid in front of it.
Yeah.
He had like an empty net, basically. Yeah, that was him. Yeah, no, whatever. I mean, there's guys here. And I think Slaggert's at least a name, but he played 13 minutes. I get it. Like, he played more minutes, and he's on a line that they will play. But I still think, end of the day, I still think Ottawa's actually a pretty good team, and they just are, they're them in Buffalo. Same story. Like, is this going to be a spot where they show up or not? And I'd rather not play that game on a 14-game slate with a team that I think is just garbage.
There are other 2,500 players that we are going to talk about. So yeah, that'll make sense.
Next is probably our first chalky spot on the night, but I wonder how chalky it'll be. Columbus goes to Pittsburgh to take on the Penguins. Penguins are minus 225 with a 6.5 over under, slightly shaded to the over. So far, our highest total, and I think it wins, actually. Yeah, it is. It does end up being our highest total on the entire slate. I looked at this originally and I was like, I kind of like Pittsburgh, but again, it's a 14-game slate, and we're talking about ownership like it's the devil, and like, this might be a spot that gets chalky. Columbus seems to have fully imploded. We didn't see lines today, being Wednesday, but they just are like, you know what we should do? We should put in Terra, take out Nylander, Texier on the top line, and just absolutely pumped by Arizona.
Yeah,
So
well, Nylander's sick, so
he's
he's
sick.
probably back, but that's why he missed last game.
Okay, thank God. I actually really needed some clarity on that because I was looking and I didn't see it initially when he was out, but who cares? Point being, is Pittsburgh actually going to be chalky, or am I talking myself into them being chalky on a 14-game slate? And in reality, they're really not going to get that much ownership.
I think people are pretty done with Pittsburgh, to be honest.
All right.
I can't say I blame them. So yeah, I would be surprised if they were like very popular here, but that I guess again 10% on this slate. What's the difference between that and 17% on a different slate? I don't know.
I kind of like this top line in Pittsburgh to just dominate whatever is thrown its way, but what does that even really look like? It's tough. Honestly, I'm having a big back and forth already about this. But all of it to say, if I play Pittsburgh, there'd be 100% chance Erik Karlsson makes my mix. He's been their most prolific shooter from the point, of course, but it'd be like him and Crosby. I'm burning a lot of cap there, and I don't want to do that. But I genuinely think this Columbus Blue Jackets team they're playing like one of the worst teams in the league, and I think it's just because this team is totally checked out, which is fine if Pittsburgh isn't, and it doesn't seem like they are. So a bit of I don't know. But then it's what Crosby, Rust, and Karlsson. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's the worst stack you could put together.
Yeah, I don't know. The only problem is that even though the team is sort of imploding, the top line hasn't been playing terribly still. Like even looking at some of their underlyings in recent games, like they've got the best expected goals marks on the team, which aren't good, by any stretch. I'm not saying that they're good, but it's not as bad as like the other guys on the team, so to speak. So, like, are you really getting that benefit for Sidney Crosby and friends when it feels like an 8K Sidney Crosby on this slate is like, it seems like a lot to me.
Yeah.
Seems like you're asking a lot. So yeah, I don't know. I do understand though they're gonna have a high team total, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm afraid of missing out on Erik Karlsson at like mid fives. And yeah, there's certainly other spots that I like similarly that I think have a bit more like shootiness at 8K or 5500D, that sort of mentality.
Okay. Columbus, wait and see, but I mean, I don't have any interest really myself.
Yeah,
Werenski's been amazing, but
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If anything, it's the top line plus Werenski. Werenski's hit 4.5 shots a game over his last 10. He literally looks like one of the best fantasy defensemen on the planet right now, which is a godsend considering how bad this team's playing otherwise. So,
right.
I don't think you can rule him out for that reason, but certainly not at the top of my wish list on this slate. So,
Okay.
Washington, Toronto.
Yeah, these Capitals just keep finding ways to win games. They are getting goaltending that's, backwalling them to wins. I think, as if you watched some of the game, it kind of seemed like Detroit. I don't know. I really, this was so back and forth between like, oh, Detroit's clearly better. Washington's pretty good. And then it was very back and forth. All of this to say, they're going into Toronto. I am almost considering this being like a bit of a sneaky spot here for Toronto, who has been playing absolutely fantastic. I know they really don't have anything to play for, but they're still rolling these top guys at an alarming rate. In a game they lost against the Devils, for example, Matthews played 24 minutes. I really don't think this Washington team is world beating. And if you're betting on goaltending, you're betting on goaltending. But I think Austin Matthews might be my favorite play in the entire night. And I really don't think people are going to go to it.
Yeah, Matthews put up 47 just a week ago against this Washington team. The nice thing about stacking Toronto is that with Marner on the shelf, we're getting a 3,500 max Domi, who obviously isn't going to have a great projection. But if you're saying, okay, I'm paying 9,800 or 10K actually for Austin Matthews, getting that 3,700 my God, I can't read. Getting that 3,500 piece who has, a couple shots, maybe a couple points in his range of outcomes is very valuable. Not to mention that without Morgan Riley, Timothy Liljegren is, someone who tends to get like more minutes, and obviously the power play one job that he's kept even if Riley plays, but it's just a bit more tenuous. So you're getting a lot of value around Austin Matthews. Would you
Yeah.
consider a Matthews Nylander stack? Because Nylander's sort of the other straw that stirs the drink here, or do you just want to sort of play Matthews with value pieces?
I would, because like you're saying, with Delmy, you already mentioned, but also Tyler Bertuzzi did get back on that top power play and did stick with Matthews at 5-on-5 and just seems to be good. Like, you could throw in that 4,300. I think you could overstack this, as I guess what I'm getting to. And like, that 4-man actually isn't it isn't crushing you. And it is pretty much, besides Tavares, everything you kind of want and more. I don't think you have to go to a guy like Lindgren, like Liljegren. Why do I
Liljegren,
think I
yeah,
said it?
yeah.
Liljegren. I'm like, I know yeah, it's a hard G. You could though. Like, I'm not, again, he does block shots and whatnot, 4,300. I think you're maybe missing the point at 5 in a 14-game slate, but that 4-man, I actually I really like it a lot. And I get it. Washington is playing well, and everyone in the league, like, it is funny how like a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, all of the media was like, how annoying is it that Washington, this team sucks, and they're still sticking around? And like a week and a half later, 2 weeks later, everyone's like, Washington's good. I don't know what happened. And it's like, it could have just been goaltending. I don't freaking know myself. They might just not be that good. And for 2 weeks, they had unbelievable goaltending. That's what I like to bet against. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's basically the genesis of the play.
Yeah. I gotta say, I don't know that I'm super in on Toronto. Just yeah, I guess I'm not fully fledged out. That's why we have top stacks or whatever at the end of the show. But just something about the Capitals just doesn't really sit right with me as far as like loading up against them on a 14 game slate. But maybe I'll come around to it when we parse through some of the other options.
It's called being a coward.
So
That's okay.
yeah, let's keep things going then.
Sure.
Well, there you go.
Nothing on the
You heard it here
nothing on the
first.
Capitals.
All right, Detroit.
Okay, you're good. Capitals,
No,
nothing.
it's
Move on.
Ovechkin and nothing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
It's hey, look, this guy. Okay, move on.
Yeah, it is a 6.5,
Detroit,
by the way,
Carolina.
minus 185. Okay. Detroit and Carolina is a
Thank you.
6 total, minus 122. Carolina is a minus 230 favorite at home, plus 190 on them, their Red Wings. Not much for me to say here. I will not be playing this game.
Yeah, they Carolina took a pretty ugly loss to Pittsburgh on Tuesday, so that's a bit of a hard reset, I think, if you're the Hurricanes here. I don't know. They certainly had their opportunities, but they are the Carolina Hurricanes. So when you see what was that 3.8, 2.8 expected goals turn into 1 expected goal, yeah, that's about the long and short of it for this Hurricanes team. Yeah, I guess I haven't seen any line updates after that game or anything. So
I retweeted the lines.
more to come from practice.
They
Okay.
did practice. I have them right. Oh my God, I just had them up. And I clicked too fast and it disappeared. Give me those lines. Gensel, Aho, Jarvis, Sveshnikov, Stahl, Teravainen, Martinuk, Kuznetsov, Fast. But they said that Fast may have been a placeholder. They weren't sure.
For Nate
Oh, yeah,
Chas?
they believe Nate Chas, yes. And then Kotkaniemi, Drury, Nosen.
Okay, so that's a bit different than last game where Stahl, Martinuk, Teravainen were a thing.
Yep. I think it makes me less
I don't know if
interested.
that's actually
honestly.
any.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's any better.
So yeah, I think this game is and like, what is Detroit actually trying to do, right? I mean, I don't know. I think they're trying to be boring, and I mean, if they didn't get those power plays,
succeeding.
Yeah, if they didn't get those power plays against Washington, I mean, they like the power plays is what kind of they only scored once, I guess, in the power play, but that was where they were most lethal for sure. I don't think we're really talking too much about, that performance. So, nah, and they're playing Carolina. I mean, you're just not doing that. So they're not cheap enough. It's a big enough slate that you can definitely avoid. So I think this is just a full fade for me, and I can move on. But we got the main cliff notes there.
Yes.
We can get to the first major chalk spot of the night.
Okay. Yep. San Jose heading into Minnesota. Yeah, we have some Minnesota news. Why don't you get us up to speed?
Minus 355 for the home Wild, the 6 over under, coin flip, which is basically saying that the Wild are going to score 4 or 5. Eric Sinek is likely to return. He is 8K, playing right back with Kaprizov boldly. So absolutely second most expensive stack of the night. It might be. I guess Makar, if you include him. It's probably close though, honestly, right? Kaprizov's 9,700 now.
Yeah,
it's decently close at least to Colorado levels. I mean, Kaprizov's been great. I'm not going to sit here and say he hasn't been great. Has he been as good as McKinnon? Probably not. I don't think I'm going to do it just because I feel like people are going to try to figure that out. Wow. I don't think I'm going to try to figure that out myself.
Yeah, no, I'm just, I'm like, oh, wow, 20 points per game for Kaprizov over the last 10. He has 10 goals. He's just doing Kaprizov things. You open up McKinnon's game log. Just a casual 26.7 DK points per game over the last 10.
Yeah, he's been busy doing that.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, this is clearly I don't think the field is price sensitive enough when it comes to these guys. But again, I don't have the fancy belt. I finished in 13th for a reason. I did not finish in first at the Fantasy Hockey World Championship. So I'm not really sure what leg I have to stand on here. But my God, seriously, $8,000 Eric Sinek, 9,700 Kaprizov, 7,400 Matt Boldy.
Put in favor.
I'm just okay, throw in, we talked about Montebo, throw him in. You have less than $3,500 per roster spot. Do you really think you're going to win a tournament with that? I don't.
Yeah,
I truly don't. So yeah, I'm out. I don't get it. Why are these guys so expensive? They're the Minnesota Wild. They don't score. The San Jose Sharks are the San Jose Sharks, but you can't make more money appear into your lineup. And when you're trying to spend less than 18K with 5 spots to fill, it's damn near impossible. So yeah, I don't think you're playing depth Minnesota either. Come on, they're putting well, they actually left Beckman in the lineup, but they're playing Marcus Foligno and guys in the middle 6 instead of Beckman and Kuznetsov or whatever the hell his name is, guys who could actually be good. So
yeah, I mean, the hardest part about playing Minnesota depth that you're alluding to here, it was Rossi, Hartman, Zuccarello. Hartman and Rossi are both centers, so you're just taking what you're not winning with that. Move on. I mean, I could see a scenario where you just take Kaprizov and Zuccarello. I think that's the only thing I'd even take a look at here, just because they just put those guys together sometimes, especially when they're trailing. I do think that they consider Zuccarello to be one of their most valuable assets on this team. He's not one-offable, but again, I'm not going to plan on it. I'm just saying, I could see you wanting to play what's his name, Kaprizov enough, but I'm not doing it.
I don't know. We've seen, now we've seen the Stars twice in a row against the Sharks, put up 100 because they have the score against it, but if the Minnesota goaltending dies, you really trust this Minnesota Wild team to claw back, to fight their way back into the game and to score, the 6 goals they need. Yeah, sure. Everyone has that President's Day 10-goal outburst against Vancouver, but this is just not that sort of a team. So I think that if you are trailing in Minnesota and you're building for that, you've kind of already lost because they're a team that's just going to pack it up and, move on. So, sure, one-off Kaprizov, maybe I'll actually play around with that idea because there is value, I think. But maybe, I don't think I'm spending 8K or 7,400 on the other pieces that just haven't been very reliable for fantasy. So
Yep.
Calgary at St. Louis. I can confidently say that I will not be playing Calgary finally. Took a couple slates to reset that, but after completely dudding against both the Sabres and the Hawks, their prices are still pretty high, and this is not a matchup I want any part of. So, any interest in either of Calgary or St. Louis here?
Not really. I mean, it's probably more on the Flames side of things if I had to do something, but the Flames are harder to stack. Honestly, both teams are kind of hard to stack. Like it's just like two teams that feel lost at sea and a coaching staff that can't bring them to shore in any capacity. They have some super talented assets, and for some reason, they can't get anything out of them. They continuously put some of these assets with not very good players and continue to do so. Like they're back to what? So last game it was pretty similar that what they're going with the Blues of Thomas, Busnevich, Neighbors, Kairu Shen, whatnot. But I just don't know if I'm even like it's just not that cheap. Like I know it's middle range, but like I really don't think the outcome is even meeting what you're looking for in that type of top line scenario. And that second line, Kairu is just, I mean, sometimes he plays 1,000,000 minutes and has 100 shots, and sometimes he plays 12 minutes and has 0. Like they're again, like you just lost at sea. Like they're not coached well. You look at the other side, the Flames. It makes almost no sense how little they seem to understand how good Kadri is. And they continuously put him out there. So guys like Pospisil who are just not complementary to his game, in my opinion. And we wonder why that doesn't convert anymore. Like Kadri looks dangerous all the time. Put him out there with players that might be able to finish, like Kuzmenko. Like I know I'm not even saying Kuzmenko's great, but like you put Kadri, Kuzmenko, and Huberdeau together, I actually think you have a good line. I might consider that line. Right now, with the way it is, I'm just done. I don't care. No, thank you.
You heard it here first. DJ is just done with the Calgary Flames. Yeah, no, I don't think
I never
there's
really
really that
started.
much to.
You're the one that was
No, yeah,
like,
no,
oh,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, no. Like they're cheap enough, Any like again, you get these power play one guys like Huberdeau, and it's like he's gonna play 20 minutes. He's got to do something, right? And 90% of the time, he's like, actually, no, I don't. So yeah, the only thing I'm somewhat interested here is defense.
Yeah.
Not only this Torrey Krug day-to-day stuff, which would obviously vault either Justin Falk or Prunovich onto the top power play, but Miromanov has some of the best rates as a defenseman, and he's remaining in the top 4 for Calgary. I wouldn't be surprised if he got booted off the top power play after these past couple of games. But yeah, I don't know. He's there. He does enough, sort of looking at a longer time trend than just these past 2 games. That is priced down at 4,300 with projection of 24 to 25 minutes in their top 4. Like he's, I think, a fine play. But yeah, that's about all this game is good for from my end. So Vegas, Winnipeg.
Vegas, baby.
Winnipeg
Yeah,
looking a bit rough. How
yeah,
you
they
feeling about Winnipeg?
gonna cash out that cut bet, I guess. No, I mean, yeah, that's kind of the problem here. Is like I think it at least intrigues me a little bit to look at Vegas. I mean, even at 8,400, I think Jack Eichel's a value. Like, I think he should be closer to 9K with the way he's playing. Like, definitely one of the best in the league right now. And I don't think I'm going to get there on the slate, but him and Theodore probably, you throw in Marchessault. Like I do think that is a stack that probably should get more ownership than it will. People are still afraid to stack against Winnipeg. I'm not one of those people. It doesn't matter who's in net. Like the reason, like look at Brossoit. He is a 927 save percentage, and I guarantee with even how bad Hellebuck has been, people will shy away because they're playing Hellebuck, and which they'll probably end up facing here. It doesn't really matter to me. Like, I think it's kind of Vegas 1 or nothing. And will I turn over the cards and see Vegas 1? I don't think it's going to end up being that. Like I said, I think I'm too in love with Austin Matthews to have the money to get there. But it is, in my opinion, actually pretty solid to consider that kind of Like that's not going to be chalky, and it's actually in a good spot, and it's good.
Yep. So Shea Theodore finally scored last game on his, I believe, 105th shot attempt since his return from injury. So that was fun. He didn't still, what's really frustrating is that he finally scored, but he stopped getting the bonuses that he'd been picking up, and he didn't pick up any assists in that game. So like you're looking at a guy who's pretty regularly in the double digits. He clearly has 30 to 40 fantasy point potential. He's got a very clear partner in Jack Eichel, who you can just stack with him and say, yeah, no, this is my guy. If he smashes, they're probably going to smash together. But yeah, that's really the only two guys I think you can trust here. They've been kind of aggressive in pricing Jonathan Marsh or so. Like, yes, he has 7 goals in his last 10 games, but he's not really doing much otherwise. Whereas Eichel's truly like a two-way ace. What do you?
8.4 attempts per game over the last 5 for Eichel, and like the thing is, Marchessault is pushing 40 goals, so it's hard to ignore that he's important there, and like he is playing with Eichel, and we know that Eichel can drive play into the offensive zone and either shoot or dish it very nicely. So I mean, obviously they pair well together, and like no issue on it. But yeah, I guess we can at least mention Winnipeg. They are playing in this game, but I've said for weeks now, I'm sticking to it, and I'm just not stacking against Vegas right at this point. It's over. The stacking against Vegas was a fun trip. I remember it. Like I was there, and we're stacking against them, and they were giving up goals, and it was funny. It's
now,
over. Like they're not.
Yeah, now you're just using Philip Forsberg to get all the points. So that's.
I know. I mean, Tuesday night, whatever. I watched. I took a note. I said, oh, I lose. But yeah, not doing it. No, thank you. And
where's the.
I kind of forgot about that was it's Vegas, that Forsberg. I mean, Forsberg broke the slate entirely, and that was against Vegas. And I'm not learning the lesson. I'm learning the lesson of continuing to do it.
Yeah, no, there's nothing in their longer term data in Vegas that shows any sort of defensive weakness. So yeah, last game does feel like a bit of an aberration, and we can keep things going here into.
How much is Kyle Connor? Is Kyle Connor expensive?
7,400,
right? Jeez. It is a 6 over on minus 125 on the under 6, and Winnipeg is actually favored at home minus 135. So
yeah, I honestly think rather than Kyle Connor, I'd rather take the Monahan to Foley Ehlers line.
Connor's been shooting again. And he's almost up to 8 shot attempts per game over the last 5. Like he is, but it's a terrible matchup. We'll move on. I just with one review is getting cheap enough. But we'll get to LA at Edmonton if you're ready.
Yes, LA and Edmonton. Edmonton just kind of holds the skeleton key for these Kings. I don't know. Let's see. I don't actually know how their games have gone this year, but I want to say I've used this comparison before. Oh, they lost 4-0 in LA most recently. What do you know? Oh no, they won 4-2 at home most recently. So they just play LA 100 times in the back half of the year. Sure, whatever. In general, though, McDavid is gonna McDavid. LA's looked pretty proficient defensively. No surprise. Finally getting the goaltending. They had a very weird slump goaltending wise where both their goalies just fell off the wagon. They seem to be pretty much back and firing on all cylinders, and you're not getting any discount on pretty much any of these players. Certainly on the Edmonton side, and I would argue 69 Kempe and 64 Fiala is, it's a bit aggressive. So with Arvidsson back in the mix, all these depth guys take a hit. So there's not much in this game that I'm really all that interested in. Might I interest you in 6,800 Evan Bouchard? Or is he just going to get cucked by Eichel?
You could actually. No, of course, here I am. I'm just like, boopity boopity boo. Evan Bouchard, he had like 10 shot attempts per game over the last 5. And now it's 8, right? After the last game where he still had a bunch, but only got 2 on net. And he's the guy who rocks. And like, I think this game sucks. Like, I have no interest. Like, it's 2 really good teams. and they're getting expensive. Like Kempe is no longer 6K. And all of the the correlations are really hard to figure out. The power play, really all you have left is Kopitar Kempe with Doughty, and then everything else is, Fiala's not on a line with anyone else. Arvidson's not on a line with anyone else. I have no interest in playing Drew Doughty at 5,100.
Yeah.
So it's really ugly on a 14-game slate where I just don't see where this is winning. I don't think McDavid is shooting anymore, and Zachy 2 Rich Hyman is 8K. I mean, it sounds affordable if you're Zach Hyman's parents, but we're not, and therefore I'm gonna, even though he's scoring every game, because of that fact. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this game. I'm not doing this game.
You really cracked yourself up there, didn't you? All right.
I couldn't help myself. You laughed too a little bit. I was trying not to laugh, but then I heard you laugh, and then I couldn't help it. I was really funny. It
was the first one was clever, and then you just kept going and you murdered it. So Rangers Colorado. This one's kind of interesting. Trouba is hurt. I believe, where the hell is he? Lindgren out? Yeah, Lindgren's still out. And now they're dealing with Gustafsson also being injured. Who the hell's left to play defense for the New York Rangers? Adam Fox and nobody. Yeah. So Colorado.
I mean, dude, they gave up almost 4 expected goals to Philly.
How do you do that?
Right. I mean, that is the point. And again, we're getting to kind of my biggest problem on the slate is that my favorite spots are McKinnon and Matthews. Shocking. I know, everyone's probably just, how is it possible? And I mean, but how do you afford this? I don't know. So again, I'm a little bit more interested in going Toronto, but both of these spots, and the reason I'm interested is because I think both spots are not going to be ultra chalky and are really good for the top players in the world to explode, fantasy players in DFS. So I'm in. The problem with the Avalanche is the player that is the skeleton key to unlock the cap is Jonathan Drouin, where on the other side is Tyler Bertuzzi. And I genuinely believe Tyler Bertuzzi is better at hockey and more involved and going to give me a better chance to win the slate. So I absolutely will say that I am 100% on board with that full Colorado stack. And I definitely may end up with it in a lineup because I might just build a few teams. I did hit we didn't even mention my big hit before break, but we're not going to get into it now. I have a couple extra dollars to burn on Jonathan Drouin. No problem with it. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's not even necessarily that the Rangers are playing terribly, but it's they're going to get worse than they have been. Yeah. And Colorado has been literally I don't say this lightly. They have been the league's best team since the trade deadline, in my opinion. They are just clobbering teams left and right, adding Casey Middlestat, clearly filled just this massive void in their lineup that they actually have a 2C who's pretty good. Ross Colton as your third center is always going to work. And they have enough wings to obviously make it work now that they're all getting back to health. So I don't even think you need to stack McKinnon, McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen to get value out of Colorado. You could very well play a cheap depth line in Colorado and probably get away with it. Ross Colton, Miles Wood, maybe not Zach Parise for the price, but if you want a cheap 2-man, if you want to say, okay, McKinnon, Gobert, and you play Makar, and then you just say, okay, well, if Makar Gobert, maybe he gets a shift with Wood and Colton. I don't think these 4-man stacks are completely out of line. McKinnon not being that much more expensive than everyone else, like Kaprizov, as you mentioned, this dude is a walking bonus and obviously, point machine. So 20 points for 10.3, it's not going to help you any, but it certainly won't murder you if you fill in the right value around it. And that just feels like what McKinnon is locked into these days. If you want someone to go the other way with, I don't necessarily think Panarin or Trocheck or, any of those guys are that interesting, but Adam Fox he's still less than 6K, and this dude is basically Jacob Trouba with the actual power play production of like a Kel McCarr. Like this dude is awesome. He's blocking shots now. He's playing a ton of minutes with all the injuries. I wouldn't hate an Adam Fox one-off either by any means. So anything else to add
Yeah.
here, or do you want to move on to our last few games?
I mean, I guess if you're thinking in your head, well, who has been the bigger beneficiary of the minutes? Last game, Zach Jones got 22. I know he's kind of always been a bit of a fantasy relevant guy that people have kind of kept an eye on. I think he just seemed like he would be that type of prospect that just never got the run. So I'm going to be interested to see if they practice tomorrow and who's going to be paired with Fox, because Fox, Keandre Miller, you got to probably thinking those two are going to be separate, 1-1, and then Schneider. And my guess is going to be Zach Jones. And I kind of think they could put Jones with Fox. If that's the case, and we're seeing 22 minutes, Fox is a great puck moving defenseman. I think Jones is also a good puck moving defenseman. They could pair off each other nicely. And at 2,600, you could probably do a lot worse, especially if you're trying to get that cap to afford Colorado. So keep an eye on it, but that's probably the top four.
Yeah, no, I like the Zach Jones mention as well. That's a useful player there, and should step into fantasy relevance. As a result, maybe he steps in front of some McKinnon shots to really pay us off if we decide to punt with him. Nashville at Arizona. Nashville just keeps rolling. They are truly maybe the best team in the league for the last month, which is just insane to think about. But it really seems to be just two guys. I mean, it's Forsberg and Yossi. Nyquist and O'Reilly, they certainly have their moments, but they've not been very reliable whatsoever. So how do you tackle this one from a DFS perspective? Any interest in full onslaughting Nashville, or are you just sort of picking and choosing from their top end guys?
I mean, it kind of does feel like an onslaught scenario, but it really is doable. Like we've talked about much more expensive stacks on this slate, and I feel like I felt okay about it. Roman Yossi is getting to the peak of price at 7,900, and he's played like it. I feel like this is a guy that we were getting some really, really good value on early in the year, and I kind of kept going back to the well, and it's kind of all come together at once. Every single night, he's seemingly having at least a point, if not two, with Philip Forsberg, who is just, again, like he's playing like the best player maybe in the world right now. It's a good time for him to do it. I'll tell you that much. And I just realized that my season-long Forsberg leading the Central bet is still dead, but it's less dead than I thought it was. So if he keeps it up,
Yeah,
I just realized only 5 goals down now because he's been that good. I just literally put that like McKinnon won that by 1 million. Now that's dead.
yeah,
But if he's getting there, like there's 2 other guys that are not that expensive that are coming along for the ride. Like
sure,
this is
yeah.
also getting, but I guess all of this is to say that the reason I'm fading Nashville is because every one of these players has been playing really well and their price is reflecting it, and they're now at their absolute ceilings. I think this is where you just jump ship in a matchup that actually could be a bit chalky.
Jason Zucker revenge? Question mark.
Zucker
He's got
Barry.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tyson Berry's just, he's gonna be
He was
mentioned here.
he was power play
Um,
one.
yes, absolutely. Barry shows up. Barry is a very good play, 3,600 defenseman, but every time I try to play him over Roman Yossi goes for 40. So like, I don't
Yes.
know, a bit of sticker shock from Yossi's price tag, but probably worth it. And then Zucker's the other value that actually shows up on sort of the sheet here. So just why I mentioned that. Not playing a ton of minutes, but he's a very shooty type person, and obviously revenge. Speaking of narratives, how about this Josh Doan guy? Playing 13 minutes, having 6 shots on goal against the Blue Jackets, scored twice, obviously. But what's really interesting is that he looks like a prospect. Like he looks like a guy who, coming out of college, like would be a quality NHL player, and would be a quality DFS asset. Like it's not often we have guys in college hockey drafted in the second round. But when we do and when they shoot like this, they look pretty good. I'll pull up some comparables for the Discord later, but when I was looking into it before last slate, before I realized he wasn't on the slate, otherwise I probably would have fucking played him. Yeah, he was looking really, really promising, and a role with Matias Michelli doesn't hurt.
Yeah,
You know, that guy is
yeah.
going to feed him pucks. So 2,500 Josh Doan, chase those points, I say.
So he wasn't on. Oh, you're right. Yeah, I see it now. He was not on the slate last night. I was wondering about that because I didn't. I mean, people were
Yeah,
betting him to score, and I was like, 4-1. Is he really like? And then he went for 1.27 expected goals and scored twice,
yeah,
like a deserving.
ridiculous.
I mean, yep. I mean, he only played 13 minutes. I get that, but you could probably convince me to take a second look here. Should get more minutes, in my opinion. He didn't play
Yeah,
any power play run, but they never really ran a second unit. Didn't need to. And Mincelli is a great distributor. Like it's not the optimal spot for him with McBain as well, but I don't know, it's fine. So yeah, not interested in stacking any of the top six all that much here. I mean, Gunther's continued to be good, but
yeah.
I don't think I'm paying 4,600 for him here. We can move on to the final two games.
Okay. Yes, let's do that. So I don't have what those games. Yeah,
It's
Anaheim, Seattle.
Anaheim, yeah,
Uh,
deja vu.
Deja vu. Look at that.
And in the same spot. It's back in Seattle. No one had to move an inch. They just stay right where you are.
Yeah,
Get back out
yeah.
there.
We might have missed the Seattle one night, but I do feel like people are actually going to go to Seattle one now that they've seen it happen. But worth noting that Beniers, Tolvin, and Bjorkstrand are perfectly power play correlated, and they're pretty cheap. So like I think they're a really good play. I don't think ownership will be out of hand, but just be careful if you're trying to stack. Like I guess Minnesota. I don't even know if Minnesota fits with them, to be honest. But like one of those teams, if they're going to be 10% owned across the board and expensive, this might be a stack where you actually find that you're playing, 2v2 D goalie roulette, rather than, getting something in the 5% range, in which case, yeah, I don't care if Seattle's 10% owned, you're not fighting, like chalk on chalk teams on a 14 game slate. As long as you're just being a little bit intentional with how you're head slamming your keyboard. So that's really all I'm interested in here. I don't know about Vince Dunn. He believe he practiced, so Justin Schultz is interesting as long as he's out. But 3,600, there's other guys on the slate who are better and just have a more substantial floor. So anything to add here before we get to Dallas, Vancouver to close things out?
I guess two small notes. Number one, this Logan Morrison guy. Is it Logan Morrison? I'm looking again. Yeah, he played power play
Yeah.
with that Beniers unit. He is minimum salary, and I guarantee people won't be going to him over a guy like Doan if they have the, and they're probably not wrong, but he had 3 shots on goal. He played 14 minutes more than Doan did, and actually got power play role. But what we're kind of saying is equally, I mean, again, they run both units pretty equally, but again, the other power play was also a perfect correlation with McCann, Eberle, and Schwartz, which I think will be much less owned because number one, it's more expensive. Number two, we just saw this game and we saw what the Beniers line did. So I'm actually considering going there myself because it's really not that expensive. It's 3,800 Schwartz, 4,500 Eberle. McCann is probably rightfully overpriced at 6,100. But who has more explosive upside than Jared McCann on this team? No one, which is why they're so freaking bad. But again, I'm not out on that entirely. I have zero interest in the Ducks. I can move on.
Seagrass is back, but yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't think it matters.
And they almost scored a goal because of it.
Yeah, that is true. They almost did. They almost had 20 shots on goal because of it as well.
It is sad to be that outclassed by Seattle. Like they were truly
for sure. Final game, Dallas, Vancouver. There's nothing in the expected goal stuff that looks remotely promising. These are two of the most sound defensive teams in the league. Their offensive production has really not come through any like single source. You could maybe argue Wyatt Johnston in Dallas, but like Vancouver's been pretty spread out when they've been scoring. Dallas has been pretty spread out and they are scoring. So I think this is pretty easy stay away. Anything you want to note on this spot?
No. There's a 0% chance I come to this game.
Okay.
Vancouver's.
Yeah.
I really think that's probably one of the biggest things about this season that gets overlooked is just how good Vancouver is defensively. And I know their shooting percentage is the storyline, but like
Yeah.
you know, they're not just getting away with it. Like their defense is actually shutting teams down. So hats off
Yep.
there. And on the same thing with Dallas. They're 3 lines deep. You never really know where it's coming from. And in that matchup, what are we doing? So top stacks, guaranteed goals. Let's go watch the Sabres come back from a 5-0 deficit.
Oh man, I can't wait to not do that.
Definitely not.
Yeah, so let's see, top stacks. I'm gonna go Montreal 1. I just, Philly's cool. I like Philly, but Caulfield's actually been very good, and just 6,300
Yeah.
for that is pretty downright disrespectful. Slavkovsky's nearly a point a game player over the last 2 months, going against this Philly team that can't buy a goaltender. I'm not really sure that I buy the money line being so disparate, but I'll probably bet that if it's plus 130 when I look at it tomorrow again. But I think Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky is just one of the best mid-tier stacks going, and it's in a great matchup with what seems like no ownership. So I kind of like that. And then just playing, my favorite of the sort of top end ownership stacks.
Okay. I have my 2 picked out for now, but I'm gonna reconsider. I'm gonna start with Toronto. I think Matthews, Nylander, and Bertuzzi for me. And if I need the savings, like just depending on what I end up wanting to go on the other side exactly, swap out Nylander for Domi if you need to, or honestly, just don't even play Nylander and maybe But for now, I'm gonna go Matthews, Nylander, Domi.
Okay. For the second one, let's go with Eichel and Theodore.
Yeah.
Just you mentioned Eichel as a value, and that honestly kind of makes sense in the context of this slate.
Mm.
Like 8,400 is certainly a lot, but when you're considering that he's truly doing everything for this team, if he was Kaprizov's price, yeah, the matchup's not the same, but like I'm not sure I would bat an eye.
Yeah.
So I guess third guy in, we'd go Barbashev just for some value, but truly, I don't know if that's overly necessary. So what's your final one?
I'm going to do that Seattle stack I talked about for now, but subject to change. But McCann, Everly, Schwartz, I really don't think is going to get played at all, and I think it has way more upside than the Beniers line. And I know we just saw it, but I'm not that nervous. To go to the more explosive line, it's whatever. Tolvanen's great, and Bjorkstrand's great. Wait, was that right? It was Tolvanen and
That's
Bjorkstrand.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Both of them are good. Like I really don't have a problem with either of them. But for now, I'm gonna stick to my guns. I think that McCann line is actually better. And the pricing is the only thing that's gonna get in the way. I'm gonna have to crunch some numbers.
Okay. And
It's really actually pretty close.
for
Yeah.
guarantee goals, I mean Connor Bedard is scoring a goal. I can tell you that much for sure.
Yeah. He's done it before. Oh, Paterka scored. Let's go. Sorry, I put $50 on that.
That's incredible.
The Sabres are coming back. You're just not turning it on yet. Sorry, I didn't have this. I didn't have this up. Connor Bedard. I have heard of him. Bedard. Okay, so Bedard, I will go with Forsberg. No, I'm just kidding. You have your second one. I really haven't looked at anything yet.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
gonna go
focusing.
Jason Zucker. Classic
Ooh,
revenge spot. We're getting back on the horse.
I know.
He's gonna thank Arizona for trading him by scoring a goal against them and favoring their draft odds.
Okay, I'll go. My cheap guy will be Drew O'Connor. Kind of forgot about him entirely with Pittsburgh. I definitely meant to mention like that's the other guy with Crosby and Rust, and it did stick in practice. He's not in the first power play, but he's actually like having half an individual expected goal per game over the last 5 because of who he's playing with. So I did want to mention that, and that would leave me with, if I could type, so 3,300. Holy crap, is he cheap? Okay, okay. That leaves me with quite a bit. 77. That's not going to be quite Forsberg levels. 77 is, I mean, Reinhardt or Tushkin Pedersen. I could go. I'll go with Reinhardt. I'll go with Sammy Reinhardt.
Okay, Samson, we got it. Yeah, so that is Top Stacks Guaranteed Goals. I'm on Twitter at Fake Moods. DJ's at DJ Mitchell 94. The podcast is at Morningscape Pod. Get in the Discord, DM one of us if you want the link to that. It's free. And be sure to check out my newsletter. Hopefully by the time you're listening to this, I'll have posted my sort of Fantasy Hockey World Championship review and contest recap and everything else that I mentioned at the top of the show. So, DJ, anything you want to add before we go?
Probably, but I can't think of anything. More drafting on the Zamboni drafting coming up. Keep an eye out.
Yes, we did a video on DJ's YouTube channel last night. If you are so interested in going back and checking that out, I made my first appearance on the Zamboni streets this week. So I look forward to continuing that as we close out the regular season here. So once again, thank you all for listening. From Doug, from DJ, from myself, have a good slate, everybody, and we will see you.